Greetings friends, Dragon here once again. If it is your first time finding my channel, please do consider giving me a little like and a subscribe. Click that bell for notifications, all that good YouTube stuff. Okay, today getting into a bit of a classic, question mark. This is Hex from 1980, made very much as a sort of Shaw's tribute stroke response stroke interpretation of Diabolique, the French film from 1955. Directed by Henri-Georges Clouzot. I don't want to give any spoilers for the story because it's one that I think you will enjoy an awful lot more not knowing too much about the beats of the story going through. But what I can say is our three main leads for the film. Tanny Tien Ni plays Chen Sao Ying, Wang Yung plays Chun Yu, and Chen Xiu Chia plays Lung Yiwa. So they are Tanny Tien and Wang Yong are a married couple. Wang Yong is pretty despicable, horrendously abusive and aggressive to everyone around him, particularly his wife. She, with the help of a maid, decided to do something about the situation, and that's maybe all I will say. If anybody's seen Diabolique, you can probably draw from the comparisons to just that movie being mentioned alone where some of the beats might go. That's where the comparisons end though. Shaw's managed to turn this into more of a supernatural stroke horror stroke don't know type experience, but it's one that I would heartily recommend you track down if you can do. This is 88 Films Asia Collection Spine number 1, so it came out a couple of years ago now and it will be getting a bit trickier to track down, but I'm sure there's still some copies of it out there. The disc is a dual format disc, so you get DVD and Blu-ray. There's a couple of extra features called The Studio That Conquered a Continent, which is just a general overview of the Shaw Brothers studio. You also get Hong Kong movie language, which is a summary of kind of the use of Cantonese in some and Mandarin in other Chinese movies of the time and what was typical for Hong Kong during the 70s and the 80s. Other than that, I think that is pretty much your main extras. There is no English dub for this one. It's just literally just in Cantonese. The quality of the image is really good for the print they probably had available. It's a little bit murky in places, but I think it's probably designed to be for the atmosphere and the tone. There's quite a lot of sequences shot at night. Great use of the Shaw's rain towers again, so there's tons of sequences shot in heavy rain, which adds to the atmosphere, and some great transitions between day and night time when kind of people are heading to bed, and they sort of shift the lighting around to kind of sell that effect. So yeah, the lighting and the cinematography in this one I really enjoyed. The story kept us guessing, that's why I don't really want to tell you too many beats of it. Some stuff that you don't normally see in Shaw's movies at play here, particularly in some of the cinematography. It's much more suspenseful. I would say this is maybe more a thriller than a horror movie. There's lots of shots of the lingering camera kind of moving through empty sets. So think the kind of the opening sequences of Alien, where you're sort of setting the stage by the camera just roaming around the space where most of the film is going to take place. And it is largely centered around one principal location, so the house that the married couple share. There's some kind of other sequences in a nearby very spooky, very toxic looking lake, and a couple of street scenes, but for the most part everything that takes place inside the movie takes place inside the house, and it's a pretty large, really nice set of a house, so the shots of the camera kind of moving through the space are really pretty cool to see. Cinematographer for the film was Lee San Yip, who also shot Killer Constable, and was the second unit cinematographer of Jackie Chan's Miracles, which is one of sort of Jackie's better looking Hong Kong movies from that period. So if you kind of like the way that either of those two films look, you might kind of know what to expect. He also shot Bewitched, which I've done a review for on this channel already, and we'll leave a link for it at the end. So the cover shot, and certainly the shot that's on the back of the film, create a little bit of a false impression of what type of movie you're getting. It does, as I'm sure if you check any reviews of this, it will mention the very strange, very bizarre, quite long 10-minute totally naked dance sequence that happens at the end that I think is supposed to be an exorcism, but maybe more of a sexorcism, because it is a particularly charged, fairly erotic sequence, and quite strange to see in a Shaw's movie anything that's quite that extreme. I don't know how many, there's been a few instances of kind of full frontal nudity in a couple of the Shaw's movies. Certainly there's fleeting glimpses in Bewitched, but nothing quite like is on display here. And purely for research purposes, I did try and track down who the dancer was, but cannot find out any information about who it was that actually did the pretty crazy, very kind of modern contemporary dance exorcism / sexorcism at the end of the movie. But that's certainly what they were selling the film on based on the poster art. I think the flip page also features this same sequence, which does come at the very end of the film. That's not our dancer. That's I think that is one of the other characters that I won't say for just now for the sake of not giving any more spoilers. But the dancer doesn't appear at any other point through the film, just shows up at the end for the very strange dance sequence. So yeah, worth seeing for more than the dance sequence. There's a couple of other things that are worth mentioning. The soundtrack's pretty good, quite atmospheric. There's a couple of great needle drops. Anybody who grew up in the 70s or 80s might recognise subconsciously a tiny little really small 2-second extract from the Pearl and Dean Asteroid music that used to play if you went to the cinema in the 70s or 80s. It would play before the main features, and it's nice kind of hearing it here being used for kind of sort of dramatic effect. It works pretty well. There was 2 sequels, Hex versus Witchcraft, which came out 4 months later, and Hex After Hex, which starred everybody's favourite Venom, Lo Meng. I prefer Philip Kwok myself personally, but anyway, Lo Meng's also awesome. So yeah, neither of the 2 sequels I've had a chance to track down. If you have seen, do please let me know in the comments below. I don't think they're connected to the same characters. They're just capitalising on the fact that Hex did quite well when it came out, so they're just jumping all over the Hex name for 2 kind of follow-up movies. But yeah, this is Hex from 1980. I would recommend you track it down if you can. We've got a few more of the Shaw's stroke horror stroke exploitation movies to get into down the line, so kind of Black Magic 1 and 2, Bride from Hell, a few other ones to kind of cover that are all part of the 26 Shaw's movies that 88 have put out so far. So yeah, let me know what you think of this one if you've seen it. Check back in tomorrow for another video. Check back in later today for a competition launch, depending on when you're watching this. This is Sunday, May the 31st, so that there's a competition launch happening to coincide with the beginning of June. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Take care.